Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode. My name is Alex Trebek, and it's time for some Jeopardy! Oh my goodness, it's happening! It's for real! I can't believe it! It's like my favorite thing. All right, excellent. We got a great show for you tonight, folks. A great show. Let's look at our contestants here. Give them a round of applause. Absolutely, give it up for them. Give it up for them. They've worked hard to be here. Absolutely, and here they are. In the left corner, someone you may or may not be familiar with, this is Mr. Donlin. In the middle there, all the way from the cartoon land, Samurai Jack. And believe it or not, from the thick of the woods, it is Grandmother Willow, people. Grandmother Willow, just amazing that you're here with us tonight.
Thank you, Alex. I'm a huge fan.
Oh, Grandmother Willow, you are too kind indeed. People, we got a real nail-biter here. Let's take a look at our game board as the game heats up immediately. We got lots of great riveting stuff for you guys. Absolutely riveting stuff, guys. Mr. Donlin, your show, obviously. So you are going to get stab at one of tonight's official categories and questions. Alex, it's a bit of a toughie, but I'm going to go with historical moments for 2000, Alex. All right, great, Mr. Donlin. So, during the Kamakura period in Japanese history, what was the main cause of the Mongol defeat? Let's take a look at the panel. Bing, bing. Ooh, first guess is going to come from Grandmother Willow. What do you think, Grandmother Willow?
Alex, what is Mother Nature?
And, ooh, Grandmother Willow, that is unfortunately incorrect. Bing, 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 bing. Oh, Samurai Jack with the next option. Samurai Jack, what do you think? Samurai Jack, what is Japan? And, ooh, no, so close. Maybe it's a little more complicated than that, apparently. Samurai Jack, nice try. It's all going to fall on the heels of Mr. Donlin. Let's see if he can give us the correct answer to this question. Mr. Donlin, what do you think? Bing, bing. Yes, we're ready for an answer. We are on the edge of our seats. Alex, I'm going to ask the audience. Mr. Donlin is not this kind of game show. Let's get it underway, people. Here we go. It's the Mongol Invasions. By the way, a perfect question for Jeopardy. In case you were wondering, we got a story of Mongols and Japan and how these two civilizations clashed in events that changed world history. A real big one for us tonight. Let's look at why we're talking about this. So it's around this time of year that I usually get students who tell me, Donlin, why are we talking and spending all this class time on Japan when there's a great YouTube video out there called The History of Japan? It's really funny. It's really accurate. It's great stuff. Yeah, excellent. And yes, this video is in partly response to a moment in that section, not trying to call anybody out, but his name rhymes with Will Hertz. Anyways, he's got a moment in his video that everyone thinks is really funny when he talks about how the Mongols tried to invade Japan and were repelled by cute little tornadoes. It's a moment that is quickly brushed over as almost completely and totally insignificant. Great family entertainment for all, obviously. We're going to take a look at this response and his thesis and possibly punch it in the face. So, first off, Mongolia, the cute cartoon up there, in relation to Japan is incredibly close. How much closer is it now? Even closer, obviously. They're practically knocking on Japan's door. It's incredible the conquest that Mongolia undergoes throughout its history at this time period. Let's take a look at said conquest. You might recognize a couple of these names up here. Obviously, Genghis Khan, notable historical villain, his conquest to the west. Let's pause real quick and take a look at some of his keys to those successes. And, we're not going to talk about the son, but the grandson, absolutely important. Different reasons for success, different tactics. Let's make sure we copy down these two. So you might be surprised by me saying this, but obviously the annex part of this is a slight twist. Again, these are lands that are controlled by Mongolia, but not like directly. They're the puppet master pulling the strings. And again, you also might be surprised at their social structure here. Obviously, this is a very violent road to get to this period, but not the worst place to live and survive if nomading is your thing, if avoiding violence is your thing. But obviously, as progressive as they are, it's a very interesting question: is peace paved with blood peace at all? Man, another excellent question for Jeopardy, potentially. So, obviously, if you notice the phrase trade popping up there quite a few times, yes, the Silk Road was a huge reason for this conquest, a huge reason for why this all happened, and they believe the next big step is to control sea trade. So, they're trying to build up that link, and Japan is absolutely in the way. So, Japan is rightfully threatened by Mongolia, absolutely. But Mongolia has done this thing where they try to reach out peacefully first, or at least seemingly peacefully. So, they send a letter. They send two letters, but they send a letter, and if you can read that letter, then my goodness, you have impressive Hawkeye vision, but I'm imagining this might be a little more helpful. People, I'm going to have you pause real fast. Let's read this letter. This is the direct English translation, and see if you can understand what the heck this letter from Mongolia to Japan is all about. Go ahead, pause me real quick. Okay, so if you had trouble reading this thing, I understand why. Maybe this will help. I'm going to have you pause me one more time. Let's read. I did make some changes. And then translate this letter into your own words with a short, quick paragraph. Try not to leave out the important details here. Okay, so you might have noted that, of course, as far as letters go, this was a pretty, a kind-ish letter, sort of, that, again, spoke to the histories of these Asian countries. So how did Japan respond? They didn't, not in the slightest. Why didn't they respond is quite interesting. Well, at the moment, they're undergoing a period of intense feudal warfare and conflict. This is kind of what Japan looked like. We got a series of kingdoms, of clans that are like constantly fighting. Their social class is absolutely all over the place, all things that we'll end up talking about next week when we're looking at how Japan is structured. But again, similar set of feudalism here, and my goodness, they are absolutely always on the skirmishes front, from clan to clan, from samurai to samurai. They're fighting a lot. Another interesting graph here that really helps to explain why Japan is the way it is. Guys, I'm going to have you pause me one more time, and let's try to make 3 observations using these maps here and see what we got. Okay, so yeah, Japan's a bit of a trash fire, as you guessed. They're constantly fighting. Not a real place that you'd like to live at the moment, really. Wouldn't like to find myself back there. I don't know how long I'd make it, but not long. Cards-wise, if we were to match these two up and just say, like, one side versus another, you might have noticed it's a little bit lopsided. Obviously, there are some more important things to go over here, like the fact that many of these numbers are probably disgustingly exaggerated for propaganda reasons. We'll get into more in a little bit of why. But I'm going to have you pause me one more time and jot down what you think the biggest strength and the worst weakness for both of these sides are. That's not all it's about, guys. As Bill Belichick would say, battles are won in the preparation room. They're won before the war begins. So how they prepare is also incredibly important. Let's see if we can compare these two one more time. What's the similarity and what's the difference between how these sides are getting ready for the war? But before we begin the fighting, a really interesting guy. Quick little side note, quick side story. This guy, Hojo Tokiyume, he's in the video game Civ 6. He's got this really awesome line where he's terrified of fighting, and all of a sudden he roars like a lion, and he's like, never mind, I found the strength within. Great story, super inspirational for samurai to come. And again, it's going to pave the way for something just as important, Zen Buddhism, to make its way into Japan. So really critical moment before the fighting begins. Let's go back to our panel, course, because I'm going to reference these two when we're talking about the timeline of the war, a little war history. So, in your notebook, I'm imagining you're like halfway down. Let's say you're halfway down, you're going to draw a line horizontal and a line vertical like so. Okay, we following along? Good, excellent. In the first column, let's put Samurai Jack, and remember his point was that Japan, aka the samurai, defeated Mongolia. That's going in one column. The next column, it's going to be Grandmother Willow, who was talking about Mother Nature. She was talking about the environment defeated Mongolia. All right, great. On the next section, next couple of sections actually, I'm going to have you guys write notes for each of these columns and try to decide when you're looking at the notes, when you're looking at the bullet points, where to put them. What column should they go in? Is it pro samurai victory, or is it like Mother Nature really playing the biggest role? All right, let's look at the first invasion. So Japan's ready. So is Mongolia. Japan's also got some boats. And let's do this. The initial invasion, it's off to quite the hot start for Mongolia. Let's see if Japan can retaliate. They cannot! Mongolia is absolutely taking control. Japan, again, fighting on their home turf, finally decides to use said home turf. They are tipping the scale. There's some reinforcements that come by surprise. Continuing on with that surprise, they're officially attacking Mongolia in their ships now. Mongolia is incredibly overwhelmed. They are about to head back and regroup when all of a sudden, the unthinkable. A disastrous tsunami hits, and it is absolutely devastating. Even though this was like after cyclone season, they get hit with a absolutely abysmal storm that destroys many of these ships. Or does it? During the battle, Japan decided to take advantage of the storm and use its small ships to fight against the much bigger ships that had a really tough time maneuvering in these treacherous waters. All of the ships from the side of Mongolia are destroyed, so at half, Japan is up 1-0 over Mongolia. And guys, what a show so far. Who do you think is closer to being right? Is it Samurai Jack or is it Grandmother Willow? Let's jot down a quick note because this ain't over. The second invasion is where things really heat up. Both sides are preparing once again. Letters are sent. How's Japan going to react? This time, Japan is slicing off the heads rather than just leaving them on red. Kind of intense. Yeah, pretty big insult to send letters again, letting them know that they're coming and that they should just kind of surrender already. Kind of aggressive. Japan also builds up some walls. Okay, looking at the cards. Both sides. Bigger, better, more intense, absolutely. But with more exaggerations, obviously. These numbers look ridiculous to me. In fact, the modern day numbers look at these as huge propaganda numbers, and the real numbers, again, the scale is quite tipped. This time, when we go to look at the timeline for the second invasion, we're going to look at just how short this really was and essentially why. It took these boats from China even longer. You can see that map. It took the boats from China longer to get there. But it might not have mattered. With the initial landing invasion, it was disastrous and only got worse from this point on. Just really taking control is the Japanese samurai on their home turf here, and no mercy for the Mongols. Then, once again, the unthinkable happens. Another, what's called a kamikaze or divine wind. These ridiculous cyclones hit, and they pretty much destroy Mongolian ships at the surrender. So that's it. 2-0. What's going to happen? Is there going to be a third? No, there is not. That's it. That's all she wrote. Mongolia gives up. We've asked the audience. Alex, you really tried to have a heart-to-heart with the audience. People, what do you think? Let's try to answer this question, and we'll continue this show on another night of Jeopardy or potentially when I see you all in class.